Hi student, it's Kate here. In this video, I will illustrate some basics concept of the static and the flexible budget. So as you learned in our lectures, static budget is the budget that we pay on the budgeted volume of production or volume of sales. And the flexible budget is the budget that adapted to the actual volume of production or the volume of sales. So in this week, we learn how to calculate the variances. And we start by calculate the static budget variance and the flexible budget variance. The static budget variance is the difference between the static budget and the actual figures. And the flexible budget variance is the difference between the flexible budget and the actual figure. So to illustrate these concepts, we use exercise 8.16 in your textbook. So it's on page 300. So please open the textbook and open the Excel, or you can do it on your notebook. Here I have the Excel with me, and I have inputted all the information given in the question. So the fixed cost for the photocopying department is for 40,000. And the variable cost is $7 per student. When you say how much per something, that means that is a variable cost because it will vary with the number of students. And always the fixed cost is calculated based on the budgeted volume. So in here, in this question is the number of enrollment, and they're expected to have 800 students enrolled. And the actual figures, the actual enrollment in March is 730 students within the relevant range. The actual fixed cost they incur is 42,000 and actual variable cost is 3,650. Now, so why they have to say these 730 students within relevant range? That is because you know that the fixed cost is relevant within a range. So for instance, from 0 to 800 or 1,000 students is 40,000, but maybe above 1,000 students, the fixed cost will have to incur. So when they say within relevant range, you means that the fixed cost still 40,000. So that apply to the question. The first question is to develop the static budget for photocopying cost based on 800 students. So you know that the variable cost equal the variable cost per student and times the budgeted student, which is 800. And the fixed cost is 40,000. All right. And the actual cost, variable cost 3,000, fixed cost 42,000. Okay. So the static budget variance here, actually you can have the total cost by add them up together. The static budget variance, you take the actual and you minus the static. Again, in here you take the actual minus the static. So minus 1,900. You see that the actual is actually less than the static budget. So we spend less than we expect to spend. In this case, this variance we call favorable. And in here, the static budget for fixed cost is 40,000 and the actual fixed cost is 42,000. We spend more than we intend to spend, so that is unfavorable. So favorable means that we spend less than we expect to spend, and unfavorable means we spend more than we expect to spend. And we have here the total. You add them up. So that is 15 unfavorable. So in total, you can compare these two figures together, right? So the actual is $50 more than what we plan to spend. Now, the $50 looks quite good, but then when we move to the flexible budget, the variable cost for flexible budget is prepared based on the actual volume of the enrollment. So in here, we will take 7 and we times 730. And the fixed cost will be still the same. The reason is they say 730 students is within the relevant range, so the fixed costs still apply. The actual cost still this figure above, so you just transfer from here. Remember that in Excel we always use self-reference. We don't input directly the figures, but we refer to the very original data input. And now we do the same thing for the flexible budget variance. We take the actual and we minus the flexible budget. And in here we take the actual, we minus the flexible budget, and we can take the total. And in here we also can take the total. All right, so in this case unfavorable. Still we have favorable, variable cost, and unfavorable. All right, now the last question is asking you to compare between this amount and this amount, which one is higher quality. So you see that the reason why we have the difference, why we have this difference, is because the static budget is based on 800 students. Why the flexible budget based on the actual number of students. Therefore, the flexible budget variance eliminates the effect of the difference in the enrollment, the change in the volume. Why the static budget variance includes something happened with the variable cost, we don't know yet, but also the effect of the change in the number of student enrollment. Therefore, the flexible budget variance actually tells you more about how much the variable costs have changed. And in here you see that clearly for the fixed cost, the static budget variance for fixed cost is the same. But the flexible budget variance for variable cost and the static budget variance for variable cost is different. And you can see that in here is close to 2,000 favorable, but in here just 1,500 favorable. This indicates that the variable cost is actually increased more than that we expect. All right. So based on this, you can try to explore further what are included in the variable cost and why it has increased more than we expected. All right. So based on this, you can say the flexible budget variance is higher quality, that information that help us to investigate further what happened. Okay. So if you watch the next video where I talk about the exercise 8.17, you will do again the static and flexible budget, and also explain more about why and how a particular information is more important and more of the higher quality than other information. Thank you very much for listening.